today's session. So before we begin, in the spirit of reconciliation, the National Rural Women's Coalition would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today. I am on the land of the Gomeroi people, the First Nation of Kamilaroi. We're in Gunnedah, New South Wales, in northwest New South Wales, and I know that you'll be thinking of the First Nations people wherever you're sitting today. Today we pay our respects to the elders, past, present and emerging, and I extend my respect to Aboriginal people and Torres Strait Islander people who are here today. The National Rural Women's Coalition provides a collaborative voice for women living in rural, regional and remote Australia. The NRWC provides leadership and capacity building for rural, remote and regional women. Hi, my name is Xiaoli McDonald and I'm the CEO of the National Rural Women's Coalition. We'd like to thank today the Federal Government Office for Women International Engagement Division for funding this webinar. And we also thank Migration Council of Australia for partnering us and for bringing to rural, remote and regional Australia the positive stories of migrant and refugee women. So a little bit of housekeeping from me. The way we're going to run today, just to remind you all that this session is being recorded and will be provided on the Migration Council of Australia website and YouTube platform, and also that of the National Rural Women's Coalition's YouTube platform through their website. We will be running the chat room, so please put any questions that you have or you want to make connections or any resources that you might have that might be helpful to any of the people that are on the webinar today. We've got such a broad audience from across rural, remote and regional Australia. So please use the chat room to connect and to share information that you have. We've got three absolutely amazing speakers that are going to inspire us and tell us some of their really positive stories of migration into rural Australia. And we're going to be hosted by the fantastic Samantha Chalmers from Migration Council of Australia. So I will be timing, I'm the timekeeper today. And so if you hear a little ding, 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 you know that our presenters have got another 2 minutes just to wind up before we get on to the next presenter. So that'll be that little tinkling sound you're going to hear in the background. I'll also type that into the chat room for anybody that might need to be using the chat room as an indicator of time. Right at the very end, we're going to have a poll. So please stick around for that because we really want your feedback. And we're also going to have a question and answer time. So that'll be for about 10 minutes. So anything that we don't pick up along the way in the chat room, we'll definitely be covering off at the end. So sit back, relax, listen to these amazing women. And I'm going to hand over to the wonderful Samantha. Samantha is a Senior Project and Policy Officer with Migration Council Australia, where she manages the Settlement, Engagement and Transition Support Community of Practice. This brings together 112 settlement organisations across Australia who support newly arrived vulnerable migrants and refugees under the SETS program. With 10 years of experience in the sector, Samantha is extremely passionate about supporting SET providers to continue to collectively develop and grow through the sharing of best practice and innovation, and with the ultimate goal of achieving successful settlement outcomes for the newest arrivals. So with great delight, I hand over to Samantha. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Kelly, for the introduction and I guess for partnering with Migration Council Australia on this webinar. Just a bit of background information on Migration Council. So we are a national not-for-profit body and we are one of the national settlement peaks and provide strategic research and policy advice in relation to migration, settlement and social cohesion. Through the SETS COP that Kelly introduced prior and our work more broadly, we acknowledge the work of settlement organisations, rural associations and other stakeholders in facilitating positive settlement outcomes for newly arrived migrant and refugee women, and wish to showcase today just some of the best practice approaches that lead to successful settlement. We have, and as Kelly was mentioning, we have the privilege of hearing from some incredible guest speakers today who will share with us their experiences and stories so that we can learn and better understand the key ingredients to our newest arrivals feeling at home in rural Australia. So firstly, I would like to welcome Heather Muirhead from Australian Migrant Resource Centre. The Australian Migrant Resource Centre specialises in humanitarian and migrant settlement and community capacity building and development for young people, women and other migrants, empowering them through training and employment initiatives. Heather is a social worker who has worked for over 30 years in the community service sector, both in the UK and Australia. Heather has worked for the last 16 years in regional settlement as the manager of the Mount Gambier Migrant Resource Centre, and for the last 4 years as the manager of Murraylands Migrant Resource Centre in Murray Bridge. Both services are regional branches of the Australian Migrant Resource Centre. Heather's passion is social justice and the empowerment of women through a strength-based service model. Heather has developed and ran 2 separate employment programs in the Murraylands, including a recent 8-week Women into Employment program, Sister Act. Both employment programs have had successful outcomes in securing employment, skills development and further education outcomes for participants. In addition to employment opportunities for women, Heather states that promoting social engagement of women in regional communities is an important component of successful settlement. Thank you, Heather. I will now pass on to you for your presentation.
Thank you, Samantha, for that great introduction. So first of all, I'd just like to start off by thanking the Migration Council of Australia and the National Rural Women's Coalition for inviting me to present today about positive stories of women and rural settlement, which is a passion that I have. Just to give you a little bit more background about the Australian Migrant Resource Centre, we were established in 1979. We've since settled over 150,000 migrants and refugees. And as Samantha stated, we have 2 offices in Adelaide and 4 regional centres, Mount Gambier, Narracourt, Bordertown and Murray Bridge. Obviously, as the manager of the Murray Bridge branch, that is the centre that I will focus on mostly today in my talk. And as Samantha has already told you, we do specialise in humanitarian and migrant settlement, community capacity building and community development, particularly for youth and women. We also support new arrival established groups and communities to engage with and contribute effectively to South Australian society, our culture, economy and our environment. Just to blow our own trumpet a little bit, we are a Service Excellent Partner and have received the Service Excellent Certificate and Service Excellence Award level as a leader in the sector. So we're very proud of that. So just to give you a bit of an idea of some of the programs that we put in place aimed at empowering women across all of our branches, both metropolitan and regional, our employment hubs, employment innovation forums, new migrant internship programs, young women's achievers leading our community, and social enterprise programs. One of them I want to mention is actually run from our Mount Gambier branch, which is called I Made It, which is a sewing program which teaches women to sew and also basic small business skills, so that if they want to afterwards, they can set up their own business. And some have done that. Some have set up market stalls or businesses where they'll do alterations to clothes. So that's been a really successful social enterprise program. We wouldn't be able to do what we do. We didn't have some collaboration and some advisory committees. That's really important, especially in a regional area where resources might be scarce. So we need to really work together to address issues and find solutions for a better outcome for our clients. And we hold both community forums in Adelaide and in the region. So for example, the AMRC will convene the Community Settlement Community Services Forums, which provides an opportunity for key service providers, local government, industry, and regional development Australia to come together to identify good practice, service improvement issues, and solutions to address them. Also in Murraybridge, we are quite unique in that we auspice the Murraylands Multicultural Network, which is comprised of community leaders and community members who come together, usually 6 times a year, I would say, just to discuss some issues within their own communities, for us all to come together and try to identify some solutions to those issues, and also to promote the cultural diversity within the Murrayland regions. And we do that through festivals and events and workshops. So I might just go back to challenges. What's the challenges one? No, okay, it wants to sit, okay. Sorry, bear with me. So I'll talk to you a little bit about the Murraybridge and the Murraylands, and I really haven't been paid by the Tourist Board to do this, but it might sound like I have been. So Murraybridge is the centre of a major agricultural district and known as the Murraylands region, and we're located on the banks of the River Murray, about 75 kilometres from Adelaide, which is the capital city of South Australia. And we're a real growth zone in South Australia in that we make a strong contribution to the South Australian economy with a growing food production and food processing industry, and also manufacturing, retail, healthcare, as well as a growing tourism sector. We've established ourselves as quite an attractive destination for migrants to settle. They get ongoing support once they're here from the MRC, from local government, and also employers. And the city has been declared a refugee-friendly city and adopted the term new neighbours to describe migrant and refugee arrivals. The population of Murraybridge is just over 23,000 and has grown significantly in migrant and refugee population between 2006 and 2016. For example, it's grown 71%. And the largest groups to settle in our region have been Chinese, Filipinos, Vietnamese, Cambodians, Afghani, Sudanese, Congolese, Sri Lankan, and Indian. So a wide diversity of cultures. We're not actually a direct settlement area, apart from family reunion, but the area attracts new arrivals because of job opportunities, our closeness to Adelaide, and the low cost of housing as well. So it's attractive to new arrivals. Okay. Bear with me again. Okay, I'm going to have to talk off the top of my head for this one. So challenges and positive outcomes of regional settlement. Okay, I thought my notes were all good again. So there is challenges in regional settlement, as you'd all be aware, especially in small areas, for example, lack of infrastructure, employment opportunities, housing, lack of public transport, all which need to be addressed before successful settlement can occur. However, over the last 10 years, the Murraylands has addressed many of these issues, and the overwhelming response of new arrivals are very positive in regards to settling in the region. Recently, the Australian Migrant Resource Centre, in collaboration with the Hugo Centre for Migration and Population Research, launched a report titled Living and Working in Regional South Australia, a Case of 3 Towns, which also included Murraybridge. And findings from the study show that majority of those interviewed had positive feedback to living and working in the Murraylands, and this included employment opportunities, cheaper housing to be able to join their friends and families. It's a safe environment to raise children in. It's a quiet lifestyle. We are quite close to a major city. And we have ample shopping, medical facilities, etc. But the most thing that came out was that we're a welcoming community. Okay, so that's my little spiel about the AMRC and a bit of our background. And now I'd like to go on to talk about some of the programs that we have introduced over the last 4 or 5 years, especially focused towards women. So I'll start off just by talking to you about our Thomas Food program. So Thomas Foods, or TFI for short, is one of the largest employers in our region. And they're the largest 100% family-owned meat processing company in Australia with an annual revenue in excess of over 1 billion. So we ran a 12-month pilot program with the Thomas Foods and also the rural city of Murraybridge and the National Meat Industry Training Advisory Council, who actually funded the project. What the project was about was to secure new arrivals permanent employment in the meat industry, but also from the MRC's perspective to enable them to settle much easier, because we were here to support them in their settlement, whether it was with housing or getting their children to school or medical, whatever their issues were. So it's quite a unique combination between employer and MRC. So the company had a range of positions, or has a range of positions, from entry level right up to highly skilled positions. And a majority of the workers are from migrant backgrounds within South Australia, but also from overseas, predominantly from China. And many of those employees are women. So our role in the project was to provide cultural awareness training to the TFI, also to do some marketing for the employment positions, to help people to relocate if they had to come from other areas, and some funding was provided to help people relocate, and also case management assistance to help them in their settlement. And on the employer side, they developed their induction and training program to assist the workforce to become more culturally aware and competent. And also the company started to promote career progression and opportunities to gain a certificate in meat processing, as well as professional development and also incentive programs. And we were also able to negotiate with them to look at their shift rosters. Many of the women couldn't work within some of the shifts because having to be home for the children from school and so on. So the company made it that a lot of the women were able to work on the early morning shift and be finished by early afternoon, so they could go home and pick up the children. And also some of their husbands also worked at the meatworks, so they both couldn't be there at the same time. So the women could work first, come home, and then the men would go to work. The pilot program was very successful, and we were able to place quite a number of women into employment. But unfortunately, we weren't able to continue the program because Thomas Foods had quite a devastating fire and actually lost their plant here in Murraybridge. Fortunately, they had a smaller plant in the Adelaide Hills, so some staff were able to relocate and keep their work. But this year, they're about to start. They just finished the road into the new works. They're about to start probably early next year, building a state-of-the-art world-class facility, which will eventually employ up to 2,000 people. And we hope that we'll be able to reinstate our program and working with them, whether it's recruiting people, doing inductions, or just being there as a case manager in their settlement. So that's the first employment program that we developed. The second one is one that we just done recently, which was Sister Act, which is a Women into Employment program. And we ran that over 8 weeks. It came about because we consulted with local migrant and refugee women about their goals and aspirations around employment and further studies. So the program was a collaboration of quite a few other service providers, and I'll just name a few of them. So it's Regional Development Australia, Women in Business Regional Network, the Rural City of Murraybridge, TAFE, Monardo Safari Park, Holmes Glen Institute, which runs the NEASE program in South Australia, and Fourth Sector Solutions, which concentrate on social enterprise. So what we wanted to do was give our participants as much information as possible on employment opportunities within the Murraylands, but also how to start their own business if that was something they thought they might like to do, or go into further education. So we wanted to empower women to be able to make informed decisions on the choices that they made regarding their employment or further studies. So we focused extensively initially on starting up your own business or social enterprise venture. But then we became aware that tourism is also a major growth area within our region. So we decided to tap into tourism as well. For example, we've just had the Bed Motorsport Park. If anybody's into car racing, you may have heard of it. And they've got an accommodation park attached to it. We also have a new 6-floor, 5-star hotel being built in our main street. And Monardo Safari Park is redeveloping and will become the biggest safari park outside of Africa, which is fantastic for our region and brings us lots of employment opportunities, whether it's in the hospitality, whether it's a tour guide, whether it's management, whichever. There's lots of opportunities for all those positions. And also we were able to build a partnership with those tourism venues, and we will be involved in the recruitment process later next year once the building are complete and they're ready to recruit. We also asked TIFE to come along and speak to the women about what programs there are to in English languages. They do all attend, most of them MEP, but also there's some people who weren't eligible for that. So we got TIFE to explain what was available for them to improve their English, because obviously that's important to gain employment. And also we got TIFE to talk about what tourism courses they had, because we're trying to encourage women to gain some qualifications in tourism before these opportunities open up later next year. There are also some women that want to continue their education, or whether that was get a degree or get a master's. So we also provided them information on that. So while we're waiting on the various venues to finish building and for the COVID restrictions to ease, we've instigated a volunteer program, and that's with both Monardo Safari Park and also the rural city of Murraybridge. And this is to give participants an opportunity to gain experience in tourism before the jobs become available. And we've also been assisted by people such as the Regional Development Australia, so that the participants can develop a professional resume. And also we'll be doing some interviewing skills training workshop, and also doing some trial workshops with them, all to prepare them for when the jobs start. We had no dropouts, which was fantastic. We're really pleased with that. And everyone got a certificate at the end and got that presented to them by the Mirror. So they're all pretty thrilled with that. Some outcomes of Sister Act. Well, a number of participants have enrolled in the volunteer program and will be working either at Monardo or for the Rural City Council. A number have already gained employment in tourism. A number have enrolled at TIFE, and one participant is enrolled in an events management degree, and she'll be doing her placement and some volunteer work with the council. And we've also had some ladies that have looked at starting up their own business. So we got some really successful outcomes from Sister Act, sorry. All right, so that was the two employment programs that we ran. I'd just like to finish by talking about three other programs that we run specifically for women that we've also had really fantastic outcomes from. So the first one is our English class. Initially, we had no AMEP classes in Murraybridge. We had to advocate quite heavily for that, but we did succeed, and we now have MAP classes, I think 3 days a week. But before that, we ran the English classes here at the centre, and we've continued to do that only because we've been asked to by students, but also some of them have finished their AMAP hours, or they're not eligible for it, but they still want to learn English. We run the programme twice a week, one day here at our centre and the other with one of our partners, the Early Learning Centre. We provide the teacher and they provide the free childcare. And about 90% of our participants are women. And we're also about to commence an English Corner programme for our Chinese students, which we'll run on a Saturday, because most of our Chinese clients are working during the week. So some of our successes over the years with the English class have included many women have gone on to further education, whether it be at TIFE or at uni. We've been able to assist some of them to get their overseas qualifications recognised. Others have been able to get RPL for their overseas qualifications. We place some women into work placement. Some have taken up volunteer positions. Others have gained employment. For example, we've recently had a lady who was attending our English classes from a Chinese background, who is now employed as a bilingual support worker at a local school. And in talking to the ladies, the feedback that we get from them is they tell us that they would have not had the confidence or the language skills without support of the English class at MMRC and our volunteer teachers, because it's enabled them to look for employment opportunities or to go on to further study. Sistercraft. Well, Sistercraft was developed after consulting with lots of women from other different backgrounds in the region in regards to their settlement needs. It was identified that many of them were feeling isolated, particularly since COVID, but also due to language barriers and childcare needs, preventing them from attending community groups. So Sistercraft runs once per week during school term. And whilst myself and my staff convene the sessions, the programme is planned and run by migrant women themselves, and we also provide creche facilities. So participants not only get to learn a new craft or activity, but they also get the opportunity to talk to other migrant women and make friendships, thereby reducing social isolation. And if any issues arise, staff are on hand to try to address them and find some solutions. So some of the activities we've had today have included drumming and gardening and cooking and sewing and various art and craft activities. We also run holiday programs for children, and this is the first time this summer that women from the Sister Act and Sistercraft programs will be assisting in the planning and implementation of the program. So that's great. And from that, we hope that they'll learn some skills that they can take with them to maybe look for employment opportunities as well. And they also tell us that their self-confidence and well-being has risen by coming to the program. And finally, Elders Kitchen. Elders Kitchen was a great success. We didn't see it coming, but it was fantastic. And it came about because a lot of new arrivals in Murraybridge have sponsored their families, their parents to come and join them. And a lot of these elders face significant language barriers and social isolation. So we consulted with them to find out what they'd like to do, and what they wanted was to have a cooking class. So we called it Elders Kitchen, and Elders Kitchen ran for 10 weeks at the centre. And each session was hosted by one of the elders, and they brought or introduced a recipe from their own province or their own country where they came from. Then the group cooked the recipe, and then they invited their family and friends. Sometimes we have 60 people squeezed into a tiny little room to share a meal, but it was great fun. And we might or may not publish a little book of recipes further down the track. And at the end of the program, we took them all out to visit all the local attractions. We ended up with some wineries, we had a shared meal, and we hope to recommence the program once COVID restrictions lift. Outcome of that was a reduction. They reported a reduction in social isolation and increasing their well-being again. New friendship developed, but also another plus was that they then went on and joined some of our other programs that I've already mentioned. So that's kind of it from me. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Heather, and thank you for sharing some of the innovative projects that you guys are delivering, you know, particularly in the space of employment, English, and my favourite was the Elders Kitchen. I thought that was a fantastic idea. So really hoping you have a recipe book that, you know, can be shared, and would love to have one of those if possible.
Thank you.
Thanks, Heather. We'll now move on to our next speaker, who is Shirley Fu. Shirley arrived in Murraybridge from Fujian Province, China in 2015. She graduated from university in China with a bachelor degree majoring in business English. Since arriving in Australia, Shirley has worked in food processing and is currently employed as a housekeeper. Shirley enjoys helping others and is also a volunteer at the MMRC and assists with events and group activities. Thank you so much, Shirley. We are looking forward to hearing about your experience of settling at Murraybridge.
Thank you, Samantha. Hello, everyone. My name is Xiaoli Fu, and you can also call me Shirley. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my story as a migrant woman in Australia. I arrived in Australia in 2015 with my husband. At that time, my husband is a 457 working visa holder. Before I came in Australia, I studied English for nearly 4 years in the Fujian Agricultural and Forestry University. And after I finished my university study, I also worked as a medical reception staff for nearly 1 year. And at first, when we came in Australia, both of my husband and we worked for the Thomas Food International in Murraybridge. The life is simple, but sometimes we may still feel homesick because all of our family members and friends are all in China. my husband and I, we strive to save more money, and we loaned to buy the house in 2016. After nearly 2 years, we have our baby coming. Then she's a daughter. But at the beginning of 2018, a big fire happened to the Chalmers Foods in Murraylands, which also make a big differences for my families. Every day, my husband needs to spend 2 hours to work on the way to work, and he works in the lobby store, also for the Chalmers Food International. So I need to take care of my little daughter at home all by myself. At that time, my husband works in the night shift, so he doesn't have too much time to help me, because during the day sometimes he needs to stay at home and have a sleep, so he can have more energy and to work and driving on the way to work. We don't know what our futures will be at that time, and we also make the full preparation to go back to China at that time. But thanks for the help of Australian Migrant Resource Centre of Murraylands, we got our permanent resident in 2019. Also, we got another good news. I got pregnant again. I got my baby son, and everything becomes bright. And we think we know what our futures will be. And also, after my little kids coming, my parents in-law also come here to help me take care of the kids. The MMRC of Murraylands, they also has a lot of activities for helping the new migrant families. I also joined the free English classes. My parents-in-law, they joined some craft making. What Heather has mentioned about the Sister Act, I finished that courses. After I finished that courses, I got a job as a housekeeper in the I think it's called the Ben Motorsport Hotel. Sorry. The job is not very hard. Now I have been nearly working there for 4 months. I like that job because I can balance my job and my family. Also, when my parents-in-law they come here, they also attend some other activities held especially for the elders. They took the elders for some tour visiting, and it can help my parents-in-law to get more experience about the Australia culture. They also attend it's called the elder kitchens. Just on, I think it's on Friday. I couldn't remember the extra day. They came into the Migrant Resources Centre in Murraylands. Some of the elders, they will cook some local food, so all of them can enjoy the differences, some Chinese local snack or different food. They like it. Now, my family, all of us, we like living here. Now we are still just struggling to make our life better, and we also try to get involved in the life in Australia. Maybe in the future, I hope maybe I can study a course in TAFE and just improve my English better. Hopefully I can get a better job and just take care of my family. Also, I can do some good to the community. Thank you. That is my story. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Shirley, and sharing that. Yeah, it's a challenging time, but with the support and the right supports in place, it's fantastic that you've been able to get some really successful outcomes and be able to find employment and get the right supports for you and for your family. Thanks so much for sharing. Kelly, I'll now pass over to you.
Thank you. So it's my great pleasure to introduce you to Dr Saba Nabi, who is an absolute inspiration. She's a value-driven leader, well respected in her community, by living a positive, impactful life herself and impacting positively those around her. So my personal story on Dr. Saba is that we met her 2 years ago when she applied to be a part of the National Rural Women's Coalition's flagship leadership program, which is the Canberra Residential Muster. Her cohort is still a very tight group today, and they work together and mentor each other, and an absolute inspiration to all of us in rural, remote and regional Australia. But a little bit more about Saba. She was the winner of the 2015 New South Wales International Student of the Year Award in the Higher Education category, finalist in the Crow Awards in the category of Young Professional Award organised by the Wagga Business Council, NEMBC National Ethic Broadcaster and eChamp finalist in 2017 and 2020, India and Australia Business Community Achievement Awards, finalist in the 2017 and 2020 New South Wales ACT Regional Achievement and Community Awards, 1 in 100 2018 Australian Financial Review Women of Influence Awardee in the local regional category, and in 2019 the Riverina Volunteer Year Award winner, and was inducted into the 2020 Hidden Treasure Honours Roll. Based in Wagga, she dons many hats. Saba is currently a member of the Regional Advisory Council, member of the Multicultural New South Wales Secretary and board member of the Multicultural Council of Wagga Wagga, AFL Multicultural Community Ambassador, Riverina board member of the New South Wales P&C Federation, Australia Day committee member, a member of the Breastscreen New South Wales, Healthy Framework Committee, NS2 Working Group, Our People, Our Future, sponsor group, MLHD, board member at the Riverina Cancer Council Centre Advisory Board, Rural and Regional Advisory Committee member with FECA, the Wagga Wagga Electric Women's Advisory Group member, Multicultural Ambassador with the Mental Health Foundation Australia, and Publicity Officer of the CWA Wagga Wagga Day Branch. And I'm sure there's another story to that story. Saba arrived from Delhi in India in late 2011 with her young family, chasing her dream of getting an overseas education. She graduated with PhD in Biomedical Sciences from Charles Sturt University and has made Wagga her second home. Currently, she's working as a project officer in a Wagga-based hospital. She confirms that volunteering is the best platform to engage locally. For her, sometimes 24 hours is not enough in a day. She's made connections on all levels, and she keeps very, very busy. Wagga Wagga is a small, close-knit community where people welcome you with open arms. I give you today Dr. Saba Nabi. Thank you, Saba.
Thanks, Kelly, for the lovely introduction. And let me begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today, and pay my respect to the elders, both past and present. And I'll share my presentation with you today. Hope you can see it. Okay, so this is my story. I hope you can see my presentation, right? Okay. So when did we arrive in Australia? So we arrived in 2011 when my child was less than 2. Yeah, and it was a long journey. So why Wagga? Because my younger sister and most of my family members, they are in America. And because me and my husband were very research focused, so we wanted to explore a different country and also, different institutions. So my husband was the first one who applied for his PhD degree in Australia. He got his full scholarship, and then I followed my husband with my child. Why CSU? Because my husband was, he got his scholarship, and then when I looked at the research profile of CSU, I really liked it. I looked for my supervisory team, and then I realized that, yeah, it has got good potential to start my career in PhD at CSU. So I joined PhD with full scholarship, and then I was doing my PhD in biomedical science. And at CSU, I volunteered a lot because I always felt that there was a lack of diversity in the boards and representations. So I was the first international student who was inducted in the University Council, where we shared the platform with Chancellor, Vice Chancellors, and I was the international student who got elected in the Science Board. We did heaps of Harmony Day, and also I was the president of CSU International Student Club. So we always took part in the orientation, and then obviously I was not volunteering all the time, so I was studying as well. And then I presented my research at USA in a conference, and I won Best Oral Presentation Award for my research. So I really enjoyed my time at CSU. And then finally I graduated with my PhD degree, and it was a really proud moment for my family. And that day was very special because I graduated with my PhD, and my daughter got her best award at the school assembly for the best student in the school. Unfortunately, I missed it because we both were given our recognition at the same time and on the same day. So it was a really big juggle for my husband to attend both the ceremonies. At CSU, I always believe that networking, you need to network a lot, because that's the best platform to engage yourself in a positive way. And then I attended a lot of conferences, and because I was volunteering heavily with the international student, so I was the equity officer at CISA, which is the largest organization for international education in Australia. And we work a lot with, we used to work, I mean, I'm not a member anymore because I graduated, but then we used to work a lot with the federal and the state ministers, with all the who's and who's of international education, pioneers in Australia. And because I was really good and I was really fascinated with WOGA, and I was giving too much to the community and people were accepting me. So my family was featured in the WOGA visitor guide. And I made sure that I promote WOGA at all events. I used to carry the visitor guide at all the events. And then, yeah, I met some of the best personalities at some of the international education conferences. And then because I was really good with networking and I'm really good with Twitter, so at the AIEC conference, which was attended by all the federal ministers and, with the pioneers and all, so I won the best Twitter person of the conference, which was attended by more than 4,000 people. So I got an iPad. And then because we came to a new country, so we thought that because we both were studying at the same time, me and my husband, and we always wanted to make sure that our daughter's life is not lost in our passion. So we made sure that we explore a bit of Australia and take her everywhere whenever we get a chance. So yeah, she loved beaches, she loved the snows, and because we live in Wagga, we are very close to snowy mountains, to the blue, and also to Falls Creek and Mount Selwyn. So we used to travel a lot and explore the snow. And because Wagga, I love the location of Wagga because we are very close to Adlong Fall, to Temora, where you have the aviation museum. So, and we are very closer to Canberra. So we love exploring Australia in our free time. And because I was volunteering a lot, so I thought it's always good to engage, because usually the voice of the CALT community and the migrant community is lost because there isn't anybody to represent them. So yeah, I was volunteering heavily with the health authorities, with the Wagga-based hospital when I was doing my PhD. And then because I was volunteering with Wagga City Council, with Multicultural New South Wales, with AFL. And then I always make sure that my voice is heard. And also, I don't feel shy in asking questions, because this country is very new to me. So I always thought that it's always important, when you need to imbibe a new culture, you need to ask questions. And also, I always feel that, you don't have a reason to complain when you don't ask for it, because I know that so many people sometimes cringe that they don't, get the opportunity of something, in a regional place. But then I always have a question for them, that did you ask for it? Because it's, it's your responsibility to ask for the opportunities. And then I can understand that you have a reason to complain when your voice is not heard, but at least you need to ask the questions. And because I was too vocal, and I've always felt that I was very respected in my community, so I was invited as a speaker to speak at one of the Welcome to Wagga function. And also being an Indian myself, I made sure that, I connect with my embassies and High Commissioner. Until today, I share a good relationship with my Consulate General of India and with the High Commissioners. So the last photo is the one, where I'm standing with the outgoing Consulate General of India. He was really fantastic. And because, I never wished for award for my work, because that was the way I really got engaged. My family was enjoying, my daughter loved visiting. So my daughter is very social like me, she loved engaging with the people. And she was volunteering with the same time, like, when I was volunteering, because we didn't have any option. I had to take her at all of my events because we don't have any extended family in Australia. So because, when I was volunteering heavily, when I was trying to be the voice of the unspoken, people did appreciate me. So usually, somebody from my community would nominate me for some awards. And so, yeah, I got, and because I was very active in my own Indian community as well. So I was the finalist in the Indian Executive Club Awards. And because I love clicking photos, so this was the one which I sent. So I sent one of my photo for, in sustainability conference. And then I won second prize when I was in CSU. And because I was too active at CSU and I was engaging, heavily, so the university, they nominated me for New South Wales International Student of the Year Award. I was a finalist. I did attend the awards. I had no idea that I will be a winner. It was a really precious moment, which I will cherish lifelong. So yeah, I won the New South Wales International Student of the Year Awards. And the following year in 2015, I was invited as a guest speaker to speak my mind out in front of the international students, because most of the time, migrant, the international students, they always try to remain in their own flock. And sometimes there is a language barrier, but usually, that's a cultural thing. And people, if you are coming from a male dominated country, you don't integrate much in the society. So I was becoming a voice for them. And then I was always telling them that it's always good to volunteer heavily, because, this is the best way to engage and then to understand the culture and to learn the different language. And because I'm a firm believer in, stand no to racism. So, and I'm a certified facilitator for say no to racism. So yeah, our council and our university took a strong step, and then we organized some workshop for the international student as well as for the domestic students, because bullying is not good. And also there is a unconscious biasness towards, where sometimes, things do matter. We might take it otherwise that, these are silly things, but no, sometimes people do get offended by your languages. So we made sure that everybody understands what racism is, and, what's the way, if you feel that you had been mentally or, harassed, just talk to your officials. So we did organize a couple of workshops. And also because I was gaining experience to be a leader, and, I was doing heaps of stuff around WOGA. So I was nominated, and I was a finalist in the CRO Awards, which is given by WOGA Business Chamber. Unfortunately, I did not win the award, but that's fine. So, and then because I had my health experience, I have a background, I'm a pharmacist, I have my MBA in health management, and I was doing my PhD. So I made sure it was very difficult for me to understand the Australian health system. And also, and sometimes I felt that being, having a health professional background and with all your experiences, sometimes it's really hard for people to understand the medical jargons and technologies. And were so many people who had language barrier. So I made a point to sit on the panel of the health boards and just tell them that, you need to be simplified in dealing with the people from CAL community, because you don't assume that people will be understanding all the medical terminologies and jargons, and also the administration systems, because, all these health systems are different in different countries. So I made a point, and then I was invited as one of the speaker at LHAC, which is the Local Health Advisory Council, to speak, to present my own views. Also, because I was working a lot with, within WOGA. So I was invited as a speaker, where you had people from Multicultural New South Wales from state, you had representations from state and federal representatives on a panel. So I was invited there, to just share my experience. And also because, to be honest, I had never played AFL because AFL is not very common in India, but my daughter loved AFL. So I just took her to AFL matches, and then I thought it's the best. And because I'm really good in networking and, on my social media platforms, and they look for the opportunities to network. So I became the AFL Multicultural Ambassador, promoting the AFL to the migrants, because I feel that the games, the sports and music, they bring the community and the migrants together. And then I was nominated for one of the awards, for Regional Community Awards. I was a finalist in 2018 as well as in 2020. And then, I was a finalist in some of the awards I really forgot. in Regional Achievement Awards. And this was really fantastic because being inducted in 100 Women of Influence in Australia is a big achievement. And I didn't realize that I will be inducted, but I was one of the women to be selected in 2018 100 Women of Influence Award. That was a really treasured moment in my life. So this is some of the snapshot from that 100 Women of Influence Award ceremony. That was really, you felt like, you're being welcomed on a red carpet ceremony. That was really a good one. So I was featured in my regional newspaper and then acknowledged by Wagga City Council. So this is important, and this is really close to my heart, which Kelly can connect. So this was the turning point in my life. So I knew that I was doing a lot of stuff and I had all the pretension and all, but sometimes I felt that maybe, I need more leadership qualities, and, it's always good to be mentored by somebody. And all of a sudden I realized that, NRWC has organized, e-masters and they were doing this opportunity. They were giving opportunity to 10 or 12 people in regional Australia to apply for this. And then you will be mentored by, fantastic facilitators. You will be inducted, and then you will meet some of the fantastic parliamentarians. So I applied for it, and luckily I got into it. And there I met Kelly and Leonie and few others, and still like 10 of us, 10 of the people who were selected in e-masters at that time, we are still very connected. This is, I think most of them will agree that the closed Facebook page, which we have created for ourselves, is a one-stop shop for everyone, because, if we need any assistance, we just ask questions from each of them. And all 10 ladies are fantastic. I really learned a lot from them.
Thank you so much, Saba. Sorry, I think we might have run out of time, but thank you so much for sharing your incredible experiences and your achievements. It's quite remarkable to hear, and how, you've really felt that Wagga Wagga is home, and how you've been able to contribute to the community there. It's amazing. Thank you so much. We'll now move on to questions. I've also just put up the poll, so if you have time, we would really appreciate you answering the poll. So just a couple of questions that we've received that I'll put out to our panelists today. Firstly is, can you share, I think quite a lot of you mentioned about collaboration in rural areas and how that's so important. What does it actually look like? What does collaboration look like to you? Is there anyone who would like to go first?
Okay, I'll go.
Heather, thanks.
Yeah. Collaboration for us is just an opportunity to really sit down with our peers, whether they're service providers, local government, or industry, and just to be able to share what we're all doing, basically. And also, if we feel there's a gap somewhere, then we can all come together and try to fill that gap and share our resources. So for me, it's really important because resources are quite scarce in regional areas. So for us, we really need to be able to work together. We don't want to be working in isolation. We want to all work together and provide the best service to all the new arrivals.
Wonderful. Thanks, Heather.
Yeah,
Anyone else? Saba? Yeah.
yeah, the same with me. I mean, collaboration is always very important because there are a lot of resources at times, but people are a bit ignorant because, you know, sometimes you don't have any interagency meetings. So we always feel that, you know, you need to have interagency meetings, you need to collaborate more because you don't need to develop new resources when there are some existing ones. And also, you know, it creates a way for opportunities to network later.
Absolutely. All right, we might push through to the next question. So what are your tips in preventing isolation for migrant women in rural or regional areas? Does anyone have any tips that they would like to share?
Can I go first, Heather?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Volunteering. Volunteering is the best platform to engage because personally I benefited a lot. My family has benefited, and I always feel that, you know, by volunteering, you know, you really engage with like-minded people, and you get a lot of opportunities. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thanks, Saba.
Yeah, I would have to agree that volunteering is a fantastic platform to get out there and meet other people. But also for us as a Migrant Resource Centre, I guess it's running activities that the women actually want to come along to and get them involved in running it. That's the most important thing, because they're the ones who know what they need. So,
absolutely. Shirley, do you have anything to add?
Not have so much idea now.
No, all good. Not a problem. So we'll move on to another question. We've got one here in the chat box. So it's a question for AMRC, so to you, Heather. Are there eligibility requirements for those who access your service?
Well, we predominantly see SETS clients, but we also see non-SETS clients. And so we're pretty flexible around who can come along to our activities and so on, because we are a regional area and there are not a lot of other services within our region that would be able to provide settlement services to our clients. So really we're it. So yeah, we are obviously, we are SETS predominantly, first of all, but we also see other people.
Wonderful. Thanks, Heather. And last question is, what are some of the benefits for settling in rural areas over metropolitan areas?
Less traffic. you save a lot of time. And also, to be honest, you know, with the same amount of money, you can buy a big house in regional areas. Yeah.
That's great.
But no, on a serious note, I think if you live in a regional area, because the population is small, you know, everybody knows each other and it's like a close-knit family, you know, people take care of you. They have time and you can spend more time with your family.
And I think Heather made that point before about welcoming community and how important the welcoming community was and necessary to, you know, letting people feel at home.
I also think it's easier not to fall between the cracks when you live in a regional area because we all do kind of know each other and we're close knit. Whereas in a metropolitan area, you can get lost, especially as a new arrival. So I think that's definitely one of the pluses we have. Plus, as Saba has said, less traffic, and we can buy a fantastic, huge, big house with a big block for about half the price that someone will buy a small house in Adelaide. So yeah, we're pretty happy.
Thanks so much. And Shirley, anything else to add?
No.
No, not a problem. Well, thank you so much, Heather, Shirley and Saba, for sharing with us your stories today and your insights on how we can better support migrant and refugee women to create positive rural settlement stories. I, for one, came away from this webinar feeling very inspired, knowing that this is just the start of positive settlement stories for migrant and refugee women in rural Australia, and that collectively we can continue this good work in providing a sense of belonging for women in rural Australia. So thank you so much again. Also, thank you so much, Kelly, for co-hosting and for the organisation and collaboration on this webinar. It's been absolutely wonderful. And we look forward to holding some other webinars with the National Rural Women's Coalition in the near future. Lastly, thank you so much to everyone who attended today. Greatly appreciate you making the time to listen in and your contribution through questions and comments. Take care, everyone. Stay safe and enjoy a very lovely, well-deserved end of year break. Take care. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks so much. Bye.